I'm Ayla with True You Systems, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit crazy. We're going to be looking at the 3 different varieties of INTJ 5s. Wait, 3 different types of just INTJ 5s? That's like so specific. But yes, it's true. There really are. So some of you may have guessed what this is going to be focusing on, and it is subtypes. There are 3 main subtypes for every Enneagram type. So those subtypes, often called instincts, are self-preservation, sexual or one-to-one, and social. We use all 3, but we tend to have one that's dominant. We're going to start with self-preservation, and this instinct has everything to do with making sure that you have what you need for your body. So things like wanting to make sure your health and your wellness is figured out, that you have housing, that you have time and energy, enough sleep, enough food, all of those things. Self-preservation 5s are often the 5iest 5s. So 5s, often called the observers, they're really interested in making sure that they have enough time and energy, that they're not intruded upon, and that they know enough. So you can see that having self-preservation as your main instinct is going to double up on a lot of those natural things that 5s experience. These 5s tend to be the most concerned with privacy, boundaries, and with preserving their energy. These 5s don't want surprises or intrusion. They want to feel like their place where they are is a castle, that it's secluded, it's hidden. It's really a sanctuary from the prying eyes of other people. But for self-pres 5s, the need for privacy and not wanting to be intruded upon can be as simple as when someone's asking them, "Hey, how was your day?" And it being like, "I don't want to have to answer that." These 5s often created actual boundaries, especially as children, from the intrusion of the overwhelming world around them. Things like a private space in a tree house, a little nook in the attic. In later life, it might be boundaries like at work, of having barriers that make it so you can't see what they're working on behind a desk. They do this because they have the most need for uninterrupted focus. The ideas that are happening in their mind are really fascinating, and they need to fully be able to think about them without being distracted and intruded on from the outside world. 5s in general like solitude, but self-preservation 5s often have the least need for having to reach out to other people. But sometimes they do want to connect, but the self-preservation instinct can start to kick in and start to think about how much time is it going to drain? How much energy am I going to have to use? How much snacks am I going to have to miss? You know, I reach out to this person and it turns out that they need help moving, and I don't want to give my car, and it's going to take a lot of time, and it's just better not to reach out. So in this way, self-preservation 5s can be kind of stingy with their time and resources. Self-preservation 5s are focused on time and energy, but that doesn't mean that they don't waste time. They want to be able to waste the time how they see fit. They don't want to be controlled by somebody else's agenda of what they should be using their time for. I mean, there's a lot of Wikipedia pages to read and subreddits to comment on. They're very focused on meeting their own needs, but not getting entangled with others. And so these 5s come up with ways to have fewer needs that are simplified or made into systems and patterns that they can do over and over again, so it doesn't take up a lot of extra time. And so that they don't have to rely on others to meet those needs that they're so focused on. So these 5s tend to like routines, things like always having the same type of breakfast every morning, maybe even done a certain way so that the butter melts over a certain amount of time by the time the other thing's done. And then the jam goes on exactly how it's supposed to. You get the picture. So like I said, the 5iest 5s. But there are other types of 5s. We also have sexual 5s, also called one-to-one. So this is the instinctual drive to seek out and find something interesting to attach to, either someone or something, to push boundaries and experience new things, and to attract others to you. This is the least 5iest 5, also called a countertype. But that doesn't mean that they express this instinct in an un-5y way. These are definitely 5s. So these types tend to be less fixated on routine than self-preservation 5s. They're more spontaneous and usually pretty eccentric. They want to create something new and innovate. They're pioneers of ideas. So these fives want to immerse deeply with someone or something. That same intensity that they bring to connecting with another person, they can bring to connecting with an idea or topic of interest. So for example, this can be wanting to immerse themselves in an idea or a topic, kind of becoming it, knowing everything about it, taking it on as part of their identity. But they also have a drive for sharing this with another person. So as a kid, maybe they had a best friend that they really connected with on interesting ideas, and the best thing was being able to stay up late into the night talking about that whole world of ideas. They want to find that special someone who really gets them and understands their quirky way of being, especially if that other person sees that they're capable and competent and really understands that. They're especially drawn to finding and fantasizing about an idealized partner, which can be hard to find, so in some cases they can become easily infatuated with that person. The sexual instinct of wanting to connect with someone else can often bump up against the 5 pattern of needing to withdraw. This is why they're often called a countertype. So they have this want for intimacy, but then also want to still have some privacy and boundaries, and so they disengage and pull away. They still need that alone time. This disengagement can sometimes be abrupt and kind of have a hot and cold sort of pattern that can be confusing for their partner. So an example of this could be having like a really deep, interesting conversation the night before, and then the next day, radio silence and no texts back. Sexual 5s can also feel conflicted because they feel drawn to an interesting other, but then feel that they don't have the skills that they need in order to make that connection. This can trigger the 5 pattern of needing to study more before they can enter into talking with somebody. An example of this might be having a crush on somebody in school and overhearing that they used to study art history and then deciding that you need to brush up a little bit on your art history before you talk to them. For sexual 5s, conversations that aren't deep are draining. They're still 5s. They don't want to do small talk. And they do have a tendency to zone out when things aren't interesting to them. But when something piques their interest or someone, and there's that sizzle and that connection, and there's something interesting, then it's like a light switch turns on and they're able to engage. And then they're often the most talkative of the 5s. Sexual 5s are often the most romantic of the subtypes of 5s. But they're still 5s. They're not going to be expressing that to anyone and anywhere where they go. They tend to be more internal, and so when they do choose to express those feelings to someone else, they tend to do it in an encrypted way and through some sort of mode besides just saying the thing. Something like writing a song or poetry. But this doesn't have to be through artistic means. It could be studying emotions and being intrigued by them. So sexual 5s may not look as 5y as self-preservation 5s, but they're definitely 5s. By the way, if this video's been helpful so far, please press that like button. Also, if you found this intriguing so far, I made these Enneagram self-typing cards that can be a really helpful tool for understanding ourselves and others more deeply. I'll put a link in the description below. So next we have social 5s, and you're thinking to yourself, social 5s? No, I don't think so. But yes, there are social 5s. This doesn't mean that they're extroverts. This doesn't mean more social, like in the general sense of how that word gets used. The social instinct is that understanding of where you are in the group. How do you see yourself in the network of other people around you? Social types want to make sure that they're contributing to the larger group and that they have a place in it. Social 5s fear not knowing enough more than being intruded on, like self-preservation 5s. So for example, this 5 as a child might have been seen reading the encyclopedia. Social 5s often relate to idealized experts, but have a harder time relating to regular average people. They're big picture thinkers. They want to talk about complex ideas and larger social trends. They want to help build a network of ideas. So things like creating a hub for questions and being a conduit for information. They see this network of ideas as creating more efficiency. So less networking, like mingling, we're still talking about fives. More like getting more of the information that you need more easily. So think less Facebook and more Quora. They want to be seen as a resource for the group or the team. You know, the person you go to for all the answers, the person that can go look it up for you, the only person in the office that knows how to fix the printer. They want to be the expert, the professor, the wise wizard that you go to that lives on the edge of town and knows all of the different things you need to know. Someone who's revered for their knowledge. That doesn't mean that they always want people interacting with them. We're still talking about fives. It's just that they want to be seen as an important resource. And they want to influence the world around them with this knowledge. So they often share information more readily than self-preservation fives, which can be a really great thing. Fives do know a lot. But sometimes it can be that needing to share to show that you really are the smartest person in the room. This can sometimes be that really strong drive to say, well, actually. So sometimes there's a challenge for social fives of how to share their knowledge without being a know-it-all. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, I relate to all of those. And that's right. We use all of our instincts, but we tend to have one that's dominant. So whichever one you related to the most is probably the one you lead with, the one that's your dominant instinct. And then there's a secondary instinct. It's called your neutral instinct. You use it, but you just turn it on when you need to. It's not the one that's driving you. And it's usually in service to the dominant instinct. And then the last instinct is usually the one that we use the least and often tend to struggle with. So for example, you might be an INTJ 5 that is sexual dominant, self-pres neutral, and then social as your least used instinct. And it would look something like this. And now you know what all of those crazy letters are. I'd love to hear which ones you related to most, which were the examples you really connected with, which ones just seemed really out there. And I love hearing from all of you so much. I really learned from the comments and what people have to share. It's been amazing to connect with people. So thank you so much and hope to see you again soon. Bye!